Hi, I'm historical linguist Jackson Crawford. I'm a specialist in the Old Norse language, and one thing that I've noticed pretty often, of course, is that people who don't have a lot of experience with the scholarly study of language, and especially language change, may be tempted to think of words in different languages as related that aren't, because they're making a mistake about timelines. What I mean is that if two languages are going to influence one another, we need to look at them at about the same time. Or if we're going to claim that two languages have a common ancestor, we need to consider the earliest stage of each and not consider some later stage if we have access to that earlier stage. One of the best examples of this is something I'm asked about all the time, which is apparently in Etruscan, a very poorly documented language that we don't know very much about. One word that we're pretty sure means God is something like ice, with a plural something like aesar. Now, spelling's somewhat inconsistent. No one really knows that much about Etruscan or what means what, so some of this may be uncertain. But what's interesting is on the surface, that looks a lot like Old Norse, os, meaning God, and aesir, meaning gods. It's the family of gods that includes, for instance, Odin and Thor. But this falls apart really fast if you remember that you're looking at languages that are about 1,500, 1,700 years apart, right? How would it be that Old Norse and Etruscan would come into contact with one another, and that Old Norse might borrow an Etruscan word for God when Etruscan had long been extinct by the time that a language called Old Norse had developed? Right, because Old Norse isn't the oldest stage of that language. There's an earlier stage we call Proto-Norse, an earlier stage than that we call Proto-Germanic, which would have been spoken around the time that Etruscan was. Not to mention, that word for God that becomes Old Norse os, plural æsir, is in Proto-Germanic, a language spoken around when Etruscan was, something more like ansus, plural something like ansius, perhaps. There's an N there that we know is there from related languages, Gothic, Old High German. Even the way that vowel comes out as an O in Old English suggests the N had been there. So, and the fact that word for God is actually nasalized early Old Norse suggests the early N there. So, you know, it's exciting maybe to think, oh, the Norse and the Etruscans shared a word for God, or even gods. But in fact, it's a very artificial coincidence. The word is related to actually maybe a Hittite word ultimately that where you can see the N. The Indo-European root is probably something like hons, meaning protector. It has nothing to do with the Etruscan word. In any two given languages, you're going to find words that look kind of the same and are kind of related in meaning. But what you need to look for to establish that languages are actually related, actually share a common ancestor, is correspondences, patterns, like the way that P's in Latin or Greek always show up as F's in native English or Old Norse words. I've talked about that in my video about Grimm's Law. I've talked quite a bit about the Indo-European languages on this channel. If you want a little bit of an intro to what we do know are a related cluster of languages, the Indo-European languages, and the correspondences that unite them, check out my big Indo-European video. It's about 38 minutes long, but it'll really bring you up to date with the most current information that we have about this stuff. I have more language history stuff coming on this channel as always. I hope this has addressed the question I get so much about this God word. And for now, from beautiful Virginia, I'm wishing you all the best.